Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 2 of Artemis Radio. I am Wendy from Artemis.
Hi, I'm Dr. June. Great to be back.
And today we're going to talk more about the who, the what, and the how much side. Last week we talked about CBD and the endocannabinoid system and what it does for you. And if you missed that episode, it's just right before this one. And today we're going to talk about something much more particular in detail. So at the shop, we get this question a lot, which is, so I have all these varieties of CBD oil. What's the difference between full spectrum, broad spectrum, and isolate? And Colin and I, we go through this two-side analogy. We always ask if they like music or sports first. So if they like music, then we basically say, a full spectrum is that you have the whole orchestra playing for you. The THC, other cannabinoids, and the strong components, the CBD. And then broad spectrum, which I know you have thoughts on, Dr. June, so we'll talk about that. But broad spectrum is basically the whole thing minus the THC. And if you have an isolate formula, it's basically one, violinist playing for you. Some people prefer the whole orchestra. We always recommend the full spectrum oil, but other people who are afraid of getting drug tested, and we'll talk more about that too, they tend to gravitate more towards the broad spectrum, which is no THC or just the isolate. But how do you feel about the categories of, spectrums?
Yeah, Wendy, I like that analogy. That's really, really helpful.
You have to ask Colin because he does a sports one. I'm like, what? It's like the guy, and it takes it to the ball, and I'm like, okay, whatever works for you.
That's over my head too.
Yeah.
So what I use analogy is sort of like patients that eat carrots, right? So if you eat the whole carrot, that is like your full spectrum, your broad spectrum product. If you just want the carotenoid, the beta carotene from the carrot, and you go to Costco or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods and you buy the beta carotene supplement, that is like the isolate. You've taken that vitamin out of the carrot, isolated into a compound, into a capsule, and you're just taking that. Of course, it's better to have the whole carrot, the full spectrum or the broad spectrum, because there's a lot of synergistic properties in the whole plant. But sometimes patients do get benefits from an isolated compound. It just depends on what you're trying to treat and the patient's own body.
So would you say, if we do have a few customers who walk in and be like, I tried this formula and it was an isolate formula, and after that we usually recommend a full spectrum formula after that. Is that usually how it works? If our body does not receive the isolate to its fullest potential, and we try a full spectrum formula, with that, can we feel the entourage effects and the kind of the full body effect of the full spectrum after we tried the isolate and it did not work for us?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So would you say that one is better than the other? That's a hot topic right now, because there's like team isolate and like team full spectrum. Yeah, that's why, anyways.
Well, in general, I always think more holistically. I think, eating things in its as natural form as possible is always better than the parts of it. But sometimes patients might react to the other cannabinoids in the spectrum. Let's say they are very sensitive and they only need CBD, nothing else. They might do well with an isolate.
And then, just say, for example, would you need to take more of an isolate to equal the benefits of a full spectrum?
Usually it ends up being that way. That's a really, really good question. And not enough people ask that.
Yeah.
So you're not comparing apples to apples.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Because usually even, for tinctures that we have, an isolate formula is usually 1,000 milligrams to 1,500 milligrams, right? And then you see a full spectrum, it's 125 milligrams. And you're going, wait a minute. If I buy that 1,000 milligrams, wouldn't that give me better or more benefits? The number looks bigger, but it is in an isolate form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what you said about the synergism and the entourage effect. You're consuming the whole extract. So there's all these different nuances to a full plant extract versus just using the isolated compound. You might not get the full benefits.
Right.
And you might need more.
Right. Okay, so then the next question that we usually have at the shop is that, what is the best method for me to consume CBD? So there's multiple delivery methods. There's sublingual, which is the tincture form, an oil. There's an edible, which is an ingestion. There's vaporizing it. There's the patch, which is transdermal, and then there's a capsule, which I think is kind of like an edible, right? Because you're kind of eating it.
Without the calories?
Without the calories, yeah. Yeah, good. Okay. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. And then there's topicals, right? And then so in a sense, between a capsule and an edible and a tincture, like what is it that would be, like where would you evaluate each of the delivery method?
So the first question would be to your client is how fast do you want the effects and what are you looking for? What type of relief are you looking for? If you need immediate relief, like relief within the first 10 minutes, 30 seconds to 10 minutes, you would use something inhaled. If you're looking for more sustained release, extended relief, like maybe sleeping through the night, you need it to last about 6 hours, you're looking at a capsule or an edible. And then usually in between is that tincture. Usually the tincture takes about half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on your own metabolism.
And then it'll last about, 4 hours?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So would you ever take a capsule and then for an immediate pain relief, do a vape pen?
Absolutely.
Like, so you can combine the different deliveries. So it's not just, you're not sticking with one.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then, so when we're doing a tincture and edible or all these different delivery methods, like how much is it, what is the bioavailability that we have in our bodies for that? Like how much is it, are we really taking in?
Good question.
Because then sometimes I feel like that's what we have when we talk to anyone, our friends and customers at the shop, or whoever it is that you're taking in 24 milligrams, so you're really not taking in the full 24 milligrams.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the most bioavailable would be the inhaled version through the vape pen. The tincture would be probably the better of after that, and then the edible or the capsule is usually the least bioavailable because it has to go through your gut. Now, if you have irritable bowel issues or digestive issues, you might even absorb even less than that. So that you have to take that into account too.
That's really true. What about the patch?
The patch, I think the jury's still out with the patch. I haven't seen enough research to really put a concrete, this is the bioavailability of the patch, because it depends on how the patch is made. The technology of the different patches vary as well for transdermal absorption.
Right.
Same thing with the topicals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say that for a edible, let's do edibles first. For an edible, we get about 15% of the amount that we're actually consuming?
That's safe, yeah.
That's safe
15 and the high end 30, but yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about a capsule?
I would say around that time. Yeah,
30.
so edibles and capsules are very similar. The only thing is capsules, you don't have the ingredients of the sugar, or if you're, baking it, you don't have the wheat or the flour and the calories, but, and you can be a little more precise with the capsule in terms of the milligrams, like the potency that you're taking.
Yeah, because everything is measured by whatever capsule that you're taking.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're not like having to guess in that sense. And what about a tincture? Would you say like 20%?
A tincture is a little bit more. I would say 35 to 40% because it's sublingual.
Right.
So it goes under your tongue and then from your mucous membrane, and then it goes into your bloodstream. So it bypasses the whole digestion.
Oh, okay. So it goes up to 40 then. Oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
And a pen.
And then a pen is about 90%.
What?
Yeah, because it goes straight. You inhale it, it's all absorbed.
So I guess okay, I understand. So what about if a lot of pens are measured by puffs, right? So they'll say one puff is 4 milligrams, or whatever. Is that pretty accurate, you think? So am I really taking 4 milligrams as I'm puffing this?
It depends on the technology of the vape pen.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Because there are certain vape pens that will burn the material at a certain temperature for a certain time, so it won't like overcook the cannabis. And then it depends on the actual oil in it and what it's diluted with. Is it made with MCT oil? Is it made with PEG, polyethylene glycol, which is what they use a lot of the nicotine vape pens, like Juul and things like that. So there's this, that could be like a whole other topic that we could talk about. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so high. I thought it was like at like 50% or like 40 to 50.
Inhaled version is wonderful. That's why it works so well so quickly. because it goes straight into the receptors.
So would a vape pen be less effective than just smoking the flower? Would that be the same? It's still inhaling.
You're still inhaling.
So would smoking the flower be more effective than using it through a pen?
So that's interesting that you asked that, because
Yeah.
before vapes came about, a lot of my patients were using raw bud flower, dried flower. And patients that compare will say to me the flower seems stronger, like when I'm burning the actual flower. But you have to remember, when you're burning flower, you're burning carcinogens. You do have byproducts, just like you do burning tobacco, right? Maybe not as much, but you're still burning plant matter. When you're using vape, it's a vapor. So the oil gets heated into a vapor, so you're inhaling the vapor. So it's much safer. But then you have to make sure that the vape, the ingredients in the vape is clean. You don't want PEG, polyethylene glycol. You want things that are a little bit more natural, like MCT oil that's derived from coconut oil, things like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so just to recap, vaporizing it gets the most amount into our bodies, up to 90%. That's really crazy. And then after that, we're talking about a tincture, which is up to 40 to 60%, would you say? Then after that, we're talking about an edible to a capsule.
Yes.
Up to 20 to 30%.
Correct.
And the jury's still out for the patch, because we don't know that yet. And then now the other one is topicals, right? So topicals are more localized pain relief. So you're putting it in your joints, or you're putting it in your feet. I use it for my feet because I wear high heels all day. And it works for me, but now I'm like, oh no, okay, yeah. So it gives me the relief I need. Tomorrow I'm on my heels again, because I'm at the shop, 8 hours a day. So I need that, because it is throbbing at the end of the day. But how does a topical work, because it doesn't enter into our bloodstream?
It works locally on the muscles and the muscle spasm and the joints locally. So I keep a topical product in my purse. I'll use it right after I get out of yoga. I'll put it on my wrists and really relieve some of that tension. If I'm sitting at my desk for too long, I'll put it on my neck. And it does, or if I have a headache, I'll rub it on my temples. It gives me quick relief.
Okay. And then are there endocannabinoids receptor located on our skin?
Yes.
And is that how a topical works?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of times you can take a topical and not worry about the side effects of ingesting it. So a lot of my older patients that might be cannabis naive or scared of ingesting any cannabis products or CBD products, they'll be very comfortable using a topical or a patch.
And then what is the relief time that you can expect from a topical?
Usually it's about an hour or two.
And then you have to reapply,
and then you
basically,
have to reapply.
right? Would the milligrams of CBD on the package matter?
My clinical experience, usually a salve or a topical ointment with 250 milligrams of CBD or more.
Got it.
Tends to work the best.
Okay. So if you have something that's 400,
great.
good to go. That's
Plus,
what I use for my feet.
yeah.
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does work.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, is this my head? And I'm not that person. I want science. I want to make sure that everything is not proven, but at least in theory that it works. So I'm just not
Yeah, I'm the same way with you. I want to try it. I have to be the guinea pig.
Right. No, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. So for dosing now, so a lot of questions, a lot of people come in and will ask, how much can I take of something? I think that's always a tough question, because it does depend on your weight. It just depends on how fast you metabolize anything, and also depends on your pain threshold or pain level that you're experiencing, right? So how would you recommend someone to properly dose?
So if you're just beginning, if you've not had cannabis or CBD at all, you want to start the lower the better. You almost want to not feel anything. Okay. So between 2 to 5 milligrams to start, and you would do 2 to 5 milligrams of CBD for the first 3 or 4 days. Just to make sure that you're not allergic, you don't have any adverse reaction. Just like if you buy a new skincare or makeup, you patch test a little bit to make sure you don't break out in hives. Same thing with the CBD product. You just test it and you take it for a couple of days and make sure you can drive, you can go to work, you don't feel altered in any way, you don't feel sleepy. And then you can slowly increase. I usually say increments of 5 milligrams up every 3 to 5 days until your symptoms, until you reach your goal.
You reached your therapeutic window.
Yeah.
So I actually watched Dr. June's videos. And I was like, therapeutic no, I actually know that word. Yes, okay. So then if you're doing too little, you're not getting your desired effects. So you'd increase it by 5 milligrams every 3 days or so. And then when you reach a point where you feel drowsy or you feel like there is a little bit of a heightened effect that you don't want, you would go back and decrease it back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
By how would you decrease it by 5 again, or would you decrease it by just a tad bit?
Yeah, you can play with it.
Okay.
And so the important thing is really to write it down. It's nice to keep track. So either on your phone or if you have a little journal. I think you talked about carrying little cannabis journals at your shop.
I do.
So you can have one of those journals, and it tells you, it has little sections on how much did I take, what time did I take it, what are the symptoms, did they get better or worse? And what the important thing to realize also, on day 1 of CBD ingestion, you might not feel the same as day 30 because it's cumulative. So week 1, week 2, week 3, if it's accumulated in your system and the CBD starts working, you might find a significant difference than day 2, day 3. So you actually really have to be patient with it and take it regularly.
I think we forget that we live in a world where we're expecting immediate relief at all times, right? And even the idea of writing it down every day and going, did that work today? Or like 3 days later, did that work today? Like, that sounds like so much work in that sense. But the benefit of that is that you can live a relatively pain-free life. And for me, dealing with chronic pain all my life, I'll do anything to not have that pain. So if I need to do this for, a few weeks to 30 days to figure it out, to me, or to get better sleep, I'm very open to that, But I think that's a question that, our clients have, customers who walk in and be like, oh, this feels like it's just too much work. I can just take a sleeping aid, and that's knocking it out for that day. But like, how do you feel about that?
Patients, clients, people that seek CBD, plant-based medicine, really want to empower themselves and take charge of their own health. And that is part of keeping track. You keep track of your calories, right? Right? You have an app that keeps track of your calories and you're exercising. I know there's a cannabis app somewhere. I haven't tested it, but it's the same thing. You keep track of what works for you. And I think that is more of a health and wellness model than, prescribe something, give me 2 pills, and I'll see you later. Most patients people that are looking for CBD supplements are looking for a holistic way of living.
Right. No, I love that. And then, so now you were talking about kind of how you feel after 30 days of using CBD. Can you build a tolerance to it?
Excellent question, because you can.
Okay.
You can definitely feel tolerance. And women especially, we have more estrogen, and estrogen makes us a little bit more sensitive to cannabinoids, THC in particular. That's why we can't tolerate as much THC as our male counterparts.
No way!
Yeah, it makes us much more sensitive. So depending on our cycle even, where we are, we could be more sensitive to the cannabinoid product.
So would you say that depending on your cycle, you take less of it?
Less or more, yep. Exactly.
Okay.
So you could think you're building a tolerance, but it could be, as a female, it could be our estrogen levels. So in general, if you do take it for a while and you feel like, hey, I'm really increasing the dosing, I'm taking more and more, maybe you are building a tolerance. You could take a week fast where you're not taking any cannabis products, and then you start again at the end of that week at a low dose, and you build back up again.
Okay.
Or you could try a different product.
Yeah, that's what I have a lot of people who come in and be like, I want my good sleep. So if I go off on it for a week, I don't have that deep sleep that I really need. So what would you recommend? And that was another alternative that we had, was that you can switch up, because this cannabis plant from this product is very different from that cannabis plant that hemp plant, from that product is very different from the hemp plant, and they have different terpenes and they have different cannabinoids that would work in that sense. Okay, so when would you consider switching it up? Is it when your body's like, wait a minute, I'm not feeling it anymore, or is there a timeline to that?
There is no hard set timeline. Again, it's figuring out what your body needs. What's great, like in your story, you had 3 or 4 different product choices under sleep or under anxiety. So sometimes it's great if patients could pick just 2 or 3 of their favorite products and just cycle through that. And it's okay. When you take a vitamin supplement, if you go to GNC or if you go to Vitamin Shop and you use the same supplement all the time, you might notice that vitamin C didn't work as well in the winter as it did last year, because you need to change up the supplement.
Interesting. I just don't connect it sometimes to hemp-based product or CBD because it maybe feels so new that you're like, I take it, therefore it must work, you know. But other mechanism, other things that we've taken, it doesn't follow that model. Like you have to switch it up, you know. You do build tolerance, so it's just kind of the same thing.
I mean, and even same thing with my skincare. Like if I'm using, you know, a certain moisturizer and I love it, usually like after 3 months of using, I'm like, it's not really helping my skin anymore. And then I switch to a different moisturizer, and it keeps my body on its toes.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so just to recap really quickly, it's always recommended to microdose. So starting from basically 2 milligrams to 5 milligrams, hold it for about 2 to 3 days, and then up it by 5 milligrams every 2 or 3 days until you hit your therapeutic window where you get your desired effects. My question to you is this, and this is when I first started learning about this, I'm always like, why does it do this? How can CBD keep you calm, alert, and also make you sleepy?
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, it seems like, and that's why it feels like snake oil. It's like, it does everything. It does this and it does this on the other side. Because to me, that's too, like, why would I take it during the day if I'm going to fall asleep? Because I don't want to fall asleep. I want to be alert and focus and sharp and everything.
So, so if you take a lot of CBD, like if you go higher than what your optimal therapeutic window is, what your dose is, you will be a little sleepy. It'll be relaxing. And maybe that's what you need, right? If you're using it for relaxation or for sleep. If you take it in smaller doses, it's energizing. So it'll actually put a little pep in your step, but energizing in a calm way, not a caffeinated way. Like, so it doesn't feel like you drank, you know, an energy drink, a Red Bull, but it almost feel like you had like some green tea or something like that, where you feel like, oh, I can get through the day. Right.
So it's basically, it's biphasic.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
two different dose produces two different effects at two different levels, basically. So lower dose, sharp focus, a little higher, makes you so relaxed that you're sleepy or having deep sleep. So would you recommend basically taking less of it during the day and then more at night?
Yeah.
To achieve those two different effects?
Right, or take less of it during the day more frequently. So maybe you'll do it, you know, after breakfast and then sort of that early afternoon, or when at 3 or 4 o'clock when you have that lull. We all get that 3 or 4 o'clock lull because of our hormones in our body. And you could just take a little, that's where we reach for our coffee or snack, right, to try to wake up. But you could use that small dose of CBD at that time.
Oh, that is so interesting. Okay. Going back to a little bit about the delivery method, I've seen, you know, when I first got introduced to CBD, I saw people putting it in their coffee, or you know what I mean, or in their juice, and I was like, wait a minute, like the oil and the water doesn't mix; it's just floating on top as you're drinking it. And we also suggest to everyone that you should do it underneath your tongue because that's where you absorb it and everything. But I read that putting it in coffee actually works because it takes the jitters away.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Wow.
So I read it that, you know, in a sense, it helps. Right? Yeah, it's like, okay, we have permission now. But it helps with the jitters, and it helps it basically helps not have the increased heart rate. So you get the stimulation of coffee without the side effects of like that over caffeinated feeling. So that's why people were doing it in coffee.
I'll experiment with that and get back to you the next episode.
Right? Yeah, because I'm curious now too, right? Because have you seen people put it in juice and everything?
Yes, but again, it's it's how it usually, because it's a oil-based product, it floats on top.
Right.
So I know there are companies that have the technology to infuse it into water and juice. But there's this extra step that they would have to do to make it, like, it's not just added. Right. So like you have some beverages, I think, at your store, sparkling beverages. I'm sure there's some sort of nanotechnology or some sort of emulsification process that they do when they're making that beverage. Right. I think so too.
Oh, and then I wanted to touch on terpenes. Yeah, I didn't know what they were. Oh God. But are they like essential oils?
Terpenes can be found in your kitchen. So black pepper
I didn't get that.
is beta-carotene. Your lemons in your fridge, that's limonene.
Okay.
It's found in plants. Rosemary, thyme, terpenes. Terpenes are the essential oils of plants.
So what exactly is it, and why is it important, and what would it do for us?
So terpenes are naturally occurring in the cannabis plant, in the cannabinoid plant, in the hemp plant, and it actually helps guide your body on how it's going to react to that plant. So, for example, if you have a cannabis plant that's very high in myrcene, Myrcene is very sedating, so it actually helps put you to sleep. So a lot of cannabis products that you would use for nighttime, for insomnia, will usually be high in myrcene.
Okay.
If you're using something for more energy, like we talked about taking that CBD during the day to help get going, usually those terpenes would be limonene, like lemon, would be more uplifting.
Okay, okay. And then in a full spectrum product, you are expected to see terpenes in it?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And then I think our last point, which is, so we get it, the dosing, 5 milligrams and broad spectrum and tinctures, let's do that for now. So now you're looking at the bottle and you're going, how much do I take? It's kind of scary, right? Because it's measured in milliliters, and then the dosing is measured in milligrams, and then the bottle looks and then there's a whole bunch of numbers in front of the bottle, and it just looks very intimidating. And a lot of people think that that's the strength of the bottle because it's a higher number. Anyway, so how can we walk someone through that process? Right?
It's complicated. So milligrams is the potency. So let's say you take ibuprofen, you take Advil, it's usually 200 milligrams for one pill. So the milligrams tells you how strong, how much medicine.
The whole bottle is though.
So if you have the whole bottle
right.
milligrams, let's say it says like 5,000 milligrams in the whole bottle,
yeah.
right? When you turn the cannabis product around, when you look at the back of the bottle, it will tell you how many milligrams in
right?
each milliliter. Then you have to figure out the dropper, how many milliliters in the dropper.
Right. So a dropper is usually 1 milliliter. That's a standard.
Yes.
Right? CBD products are usually sold in 30 milliliters, which is 1 ounce. So technically, a whole dropper is 1 milliliter. So the amount of CBD in one dropper is divided by the potency minus 30.
Yes.
Woohoo! All the math is coming back. All of my schooling is finally coming back. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to put in the comments below, on whatever platform that you're watching this on, and we can help you. You basically divide a few things to get you to the desired amount of milligrams you want to take. So ideally, if we're microdosing at 5 milligrams, you're looking at like 2 drops, right?
2 drops.
Right, 2-3
Yep.
drops, maybe 4 drops,
Yep.
depending on what is the potency of the actual bottle.
Exactly.
And the full dropper can range from 10 milligrams to 24 milligrams, depending again on the volume and the potency of the dropper. So if you need any help on that, please let us know, and we can divide for you, and then at least walk you through that stuff, because it is very confusing,
Yeah, but once you see a couple examples, like if we did it for just 1 or 2 examples, then usually everyone gets it after that. Yeah.
Right. So this is a lot for today. Full spectrum delivery method, how much to drop, which is dosing, and the terpene profile that we talked about today. But again, if you have any questions about that, please leave us a comment, and we'll definitely get back to it. And that is good for today. And our rapid fire question for Dr. June. Okay, this is a hard one, but do you have a favorite terpene?
I love linalool, which is like lavender.
Is it relaxing?
Very relaxing.
So would you recommend that at nighttime?
Mm-hmm. At nighttime. Or if you're having an anxious day, take it during the day to help kind of chill you out, relax.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then how do you feel about, tell me the truth, how do you feel about an isolate formula?
I think an isolate formula is good for patients that are very sensitive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is your favorite delivery method?
My favorite delivery method is the tincture.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Easy. It's just done, and then you have to think about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we will be back with episode 3.
Thanks, Wendy.